Welcome back to the shop. We are back working on, I gotta push this thing in again. Project Cheapskate. There went the door. Let's get this thing up in the air. We'll talk about what's wrong with it now. You see, honestly, this car is driving me
crazy. This
is the most problematic vehicle I have ever owned. And honestly, I really can't blame anybody but myself. What, Project Cheapskate? The whole thing is doomed. One problem after another. Today, we are addressing the valve body, the mechatronics, yet again, on Project Cheapskate, my 2010 X5 that I picked up for $500. What a curse. Here's what's happening. The previous owner let me know that occasionally the car would pop into neutral, the drive indicator would flash and it'd go into park and then not come out of gear. When I bought the car, it was being really funny about shifting, but not doing any of those other things. If you recall back, I've got the video listed down below, when I picked this thing up, there was fluid underneath the whole bottom of the car. The tranny pan had a crack in it and it was ridiculously low on fluid. Well, that's problematic by itself. So what did I do about that? Well, I ordered fluid for it, a tranny pan, and all of the mechatronic seals up inside of the case between the case and the mechatronic or the valve body unit. That's a pretty good start. Again, I'm trying not to spend a ton of money on this car. It's my own fault. I knew about the solenoid problems that these had, but I didn't have any of the faults for those solenoids. See, I should have checked adaptation values then, and I would have noticed an irregularity. See, you can check, at least with my Foxwell scanner, you can check the adaptation values for the time and the pressure to fill each one of the chambers on each one of the valves. And the fault that I'm getting is for valve 1. You see over here, my times show that solenoid A or 1 is having some issues. It's taking too long and at the wrong pressures to fill up as compared to the other ones. But back to the name of this project, Project Cheapskate. See, I wasn't looking to immediately dump $1,000 into the transmission or thereabouts. I recognize there are cheaper fluids, cheaper pan options, and cheaper seals potentially out there. But what I did was I decided to go with a higher quality pan from FCP Euro in the hopes that I wouldn't have any problems. I also went with the ZF Lifeguard 6 recommended fluid for this transmission. That alone was like $200, $300. The additional parts to do the solenoids were another $350. And I bought those parts from the CTSC, the California Transmission Supply Company. They actually had the best price and instructions and everything on the solenoids. So with all of that said, I should have done the solenoids while I was in there. I say this often, but famous last words to pretty well any mechanic, the while I was in there mentality, that can go over the top really, really fast. I wanted to make Project Cheapskate my shop runner. Not my shop needs all my time, all my money, and all my effort. We got to pull the mechatronics back out of this car. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. If you want to see exactly how to pull and install the mechatronics, take a look at the video I have linked down below from when I did that last time. I go into in-depth how to do it. Once I get this guy out, we'll go back into depth on the actual solenoids and the process of replacing those, resetting adaptations yet again, and getting this thing back on the road.
Whew, this car, oh my goodness.
After fighting the mechatronic seal for what felt like an eternity, I've got my unit here on the workbench and my instructions for which bolts to take out. It shows on mine, I have the E-shift by wire. I've got to remove these 6 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I have to get this harness off, and then we can get our solenoids out. Okay, and the harness has to come off up front and over here. Just pops out, unclips underneath this solenoid cover, and should pop out of this side as well. There's a little tab right there we have to lift up. Get that guy off. Now we can tilt this up, and we've got dowels holding this in. We just need to gently press this guy out without sticking your fingers in there on the contacts like I just did. Less than ideal. pretty snug fit. Here's that dowel right there, another dowel down here. And just pry up gently here. This is the actual electronic portion of your module. It looks like my slide contact came off over here. Now we can address our solenoids. So we're going to flip it back over. We've got our bolts holding this in across here. We're only going to take one solenoid out at a time so that we make sure to put them back in the right spots. You can see our solenoid packs here. We have two blue ones. That's actually what looks like green ones here. This one is actually green. That's going to be this one with the shift mechanism. Then we have 3 yellows here, 2 orange down here, and our new solenoid seals. And then this solenoid goes over here on this side. So let's start with our orange ones that now look brown. And we'll start by just getting this plate off. These are all T27s again. Retainer plate slides up and out. And all that extra debris off of there. Orange first. These are directional. We need to make sure that our contacts are straight down. And there's this notch here at the top. So that locks right in between to get that guy to stay in place. To get these out, we're just going to use a little bit of gentle pry pressure. Pop it straight out. That one had a little piece of something in it. These already have a little bit of oil on them. Gently push that guy in straight. Okay, now this solenoid is actually this green one, where the other green ones were actually blue ones. It's a little bit different. We need to get the shift shaft out, which means we have to rotate it over here and pop our little retainer tab off. Set that to the side. Now we can pop this guy out, slide this guy out, look for anything there, slide in. This one doesn't have an O-ring set on it, so it pops in and out much easier. And then we're going to put our retainer pin back on. That's what engages in our mechatronic over here in this little adapter, or this has got to be our contact for the shifter. Now we can refit our retaining plate. Make sure everybody lines up in our grooves here. I'm just going to straighten these out just a little bit. And then our bolts go in. We torque these to 6 Newton meters. Okay, now we got our additional solenoid. Retainer off. There's the actual retainer. Let's see, and you can see his orientation here. And there is a spring-loaded valve behind it. So don't let that pop out on you. Okay, now we can get our electronics on with our new foam gaskets, or isolator gaskets. So over here on the control side of things, you can see right here, these are our foam gaskets. These guys just falling apart. Wow. Whoops. I'm gonna turn this over, work those out that way. Kind of surprised that they weren't like flowing through the transmission. Gosh, that's a real bummer. One of the reasons I ordered my kit from the CTSC is because their kit comes with these, and I've read reviews on FCP Euro that FCP Euro's kit does not come with these. I don't know if that's valid or not. I didn't call. I suppose I could have done that. It's clearly stated on the CTSC's website that it comes with their kit. So I'm just making sure I don't have any more little debris in here. We just got to push this over each one of our contacts. Okay, and we're ready. Get this out of the way to go back together. So remember, we had that piece fall off of our mechatronic. That was this one. You want to make sure that you get the orientation correct in here on this shaft so that it can read where everything is. So as you're getting it ready to slide together, you can adjust these two to make sure they're lining up. Get our dowels lined up. With our dowels lined up, it starts to move together a little bit easier. And then we can see if our solenoids look straight enough to make good contact. So inside here, that guy wasn't lined up. We want to make sure it's lined up with our shaft. The new foam provides quite a bit of resistance. It's all lined up nicely. This one doesn't want to drop down on the dowel. There it is. A little extra ugga-duggas, get the job done. Let's see that. We've got our new harness. Connectors are the same. Okay, let's go back in the car. One quick note before going back together. While I had the valve body on the bench here, I went ahead and wrote with permanent marker where all my bolt holes are and my torque sequence from the picture that I printed out. This is my transmission. I just wrote it on here so I had something to reference. This is a really good idea for while you're under there so you can torque in sequence. On my little scanner here, I went into service, transmission, and I'm going to be resetting adaptation functions and display and reset adaptation values. So reset learning functions. It tests for communication to the control module. Did we make the connection properly? So let's go ahead and display our adaptation values. So they're reading clutch A, fill pressures 312, 105, negative 39, clutch D 300, clutch E 0, and then down below the rapid fill times 183100. So those don't seem good. Reset adaptations. Now I downloaded Bimmer code and Bimmer link, and I can't seem to figure out how to do this in those. I'm guessing I need Pro Tool for that, but I already have this guy. So for now, I'm choosing to use two different scanning setups. Okay, adaptations were cleared. Now everybody reads as 0. And I know that I cleared adaptations when I replaced the mechatronic seals before, so that leads me down the path of those solenoids having been bad too, plus the fault that I was getting. Well, it's been just over a week on the new transmission solenoids, and so far, so good. Every time I drive it, it feels just a little bit smoother, whether in sport mode or regular mode. I checked the adaptation values earlier, and I have those here on screen. The only one that I'm concerned about is clutch C showing negative 293 on fill pressure, and then when I go down to fill time, clutch E at 21. Those numbers are pretty far out from all the other numbers. However, I don't have any funny shifting as of yet. And I wasn't getting a fault for clutch C or E. I don't think I was getting solenoid pressure on number 1. So not really sure what that means. What I do know is it's running fantastic right now and shifting marvelously. It does have 178,000 miles on it, which I'm sure that those clutch packs have some wear on them. We'll see what happens as time goes by. Thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. Check out my merch store down below. Here's one of my designs here. You can pick up a sticker, German anti-theft system. I've got like 10 or 12 designs right now, and I'm actively bouncing around another 20 or so in my head that I'll put together as soon as I can. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the next one.